Today we're asking the question, what is in your heart? And what's flowing out of your heart? Tough question, but worthy of consideration. Come and join me. Hey everybody, welcome to Bibletime. Craig here. We're picking up in Mark chapter 7. If you're new to these videos, just want to let you know what it is. This is a place where we read the Bible together every single day, trying to get in the habit of spending time eating good food for our heart and our soul in a world that's trying to feed us all kinds of garbage. We want to start our morning, and if it's not morning for you, it's okay, but we want to eat every day good spiritual food, and we want to pursue the heart of Jesus through his word and listening to his spirit. So I'm not really here to teach you, lecture you. I haven't pre-read this. We're just reading the Bible together, and I share my thoughts along the way, and hopefully show you an example of a way to grab a pen and cut up your own Bible and engage with it. So that being said, let's jump in. Mark 7 verse 14, and this is Jesus is just doing his thing, wandering around the region, ministering to people, and he looks like he's about to start a conversation about a specific subject. So let's see what it is. And he called the people to him again and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside of a person that by going into him can defile him. But the things that come out of a person are what defile him." So defile would be basically make you marred in God's image or unclean. You may have to go through some form of purifying process to not be defiled any longer. Like in the Old Testament, if you touched a corpse, you're defiled. Now you'd have to go through this process to not be defiled anymore. And it's basically these regulations of being, sinful or separated from God. And there was a lot of laws about essentially food that would come from the outside. You'd eat it, and so like different dietary laws, we don't need to get into it all, but that were wrong and against the law. And what Jesus is pointing out is that it's the things that come out of you that are really the things that defile you. That he's trying to teach that a heart overflows with words, and that what's in the heart is most important. When he entered the house and left the people, his disciples asked him about the parable. And he said to them, "Then are you also without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into a person from the outside cannot defile him, since it enters not into his heart, but to his stomach, and is expelled? Thus he declared all foods clean." Yeah. It's interesting that Mark writes this when he did, because in many ways people kind of look at Acts chapter 10 when God speaks to Peter and the sheet coming down from heaven with all these animals on it, and God tells him, "Hey, what I've called clean, don't call unclean." But here in the Gospel of Mark, it's taken place even earlier than that. And so his conclusion to that statement was that Jesus was calling all foods clean, which again would have been something against the Mosaic law for a number of foods. But what Jesus is pointing out, like I mentioned, is that the heart is what is important, not just the stomach. And he said, "What comes out of a person is what defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of a man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person." For from within, out of the heart of man, comes evil. It be evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. My guess is just to name a few. And so he's continuing on this theme. We heard about it yesterday, where he was talking about this people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Talking about you care about the traditions of your people more than the commandments of God. You're an actor, you hypocrite, you actor. Now he's talking to different people, and he's still hitting on the same subject, that it's your heart. What comes out of your heart? Is your heart actually in love with God and His ways? Sometimes I think that when you read a list like this, evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness, it's easy just to say, well, okay, no, I don't think so. Yeah, we'll just say no, and you just kind of go through it and you're like, okay, that doesn't apply to me. But again, like, wouldn't it be fair to say that the greater principle is to ask ourselves what is really overflowing from our heart, not to say, well, am I specifically committing one of these labeled sins that are here? To just try and avoid a certain list of sin isn't even the point at all. Nor is it even the point to look at a full comprehensive list of sin. The point is to say, how's my heart? What is overflowing from my heart, and how does that come out through my words and my actions and my desires? So how's your heart? What overflows from your heart? Isn't it worth just a couple moments to consider? Verse 24. And from there he arose and he went away to the region of Tyre and Sidon. This had been a region that the Jewish people did not like, and they didn't like those people. And he entered a house and did not want anyone to know. Yet he could not be hidden. But immediately a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell face down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile, a Syrophoenician by birth, and she begged him to cast out the demon of her daughter. And he said to her, let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. This is like one of the most challenging, like, what is going on passages. So just so I know you're hanging with me. So we got this woman, okay, character A. Character B is the daughter, and she's suffering with an unclean spirit. So character A, the woman, falls at his feet and begs him to cast the demon out. And character C, of course, is Jesus. And he says, let the children be fed first. It's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to dogs. It's like, who would say that? Especially Jesus, who is so loving, so compassionate. And yet, in spite of him saying that, she answered him, yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And he said to her, for this statement, you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter. And she went home and found her child lying in bed and the demon gone. And so he says this like statement that seems like it's super insulting. And then she says, in a sense, like, you're right, taking a spirit of humility. And she says, but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Like, hey, you know what? That's fine. I'm willing to take a position of humility and say, yeah, I'm just like a dog under the table, but I know that the crumbs fall from the table, and what you came to bring Israel, I wonder if there's just some crumbs that could come our way, because even in the crumbs, I know that I could find healing. My daughter could find healing. And Jesus is pleased with this answer. The other account of this, I think in Matthew, is a little bit more detailed and adds a little bit more light to what's going on. But I mean, however you slice it, it's a tough one. There's a really, really good sermon written on this by a German pastor, written back in like World War II, Holocaust times. And his name is Helmut Thielicke, or Thielicke. You should definitely look it up. It's so good. It's called The Silence of God. And it's on this passage. And it's asking the question, what do you do when it seems like God is silent? Because in the other passage, the other gospel, I think Matthew, when she first comes to him, it says that he ignored her, or he answered her not a word. Like, so he didn't even say anything back to her. And he was asking this question, and it, you know, how profound in the midst of a season in Germany where God's people are being killed, and what is going on. And he's asking the question, you know, what do we do with the silence of God, the perceived silence of God, when God is not answering us a word? And the woman had such great faith that she took on a spirit of humility, continued to cry out, didn't let anybody dissuade her, appealed to him. And the terminology of the dogs in this passage sound like really, you know, rude, but in a sense, the dog, at least one of the versions of dog, I remember looking it up once, is like this image of worship, like a dog that goes and licks its master's hands or face just out of absolute love and adoration. And the idea is that we can, you know, worship God even when it seems like he's silent, and he came through for her because of her faith. And it's an example for us that we can trust that he'll come through for us as well. So, what's in your heart? You know, the commercial says, what's in your wallet? But what's way more important than that is what's in your heart, and how's it coming out of you? How's it coming out of you? Thanks for joining me today. I hope you consider those questions and you give the Holy Spirit some room to work in your life. and I'll plan on picking up with you again tomorrow in verse 31. I'll see you then.